Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Clear and Present Danger, starring Harrison Ford, Willem Dafoe, and Archer, Joaquim de Almeida. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. Please forgive me. Henry Czerny, Harris Yulin, Donald Moffat, Miguel Sandoval, Benjamin Bratt, Raymond Cruz, and James Earl Jones, directed by Philip Noyce. Let's just get straight into this because this is something I've seen once but don't remember too much about. In Langley, Virginia, Jack Ryan, played by Harrison Ford, or returned by him, I'll say, visits Admiral Greer in his office as he goes to the White House with Admiral Greer and visits visits President Bennett, played by Donald Moffat, as they tell the president about the drugs on a boat that was found by the Coast Guard and have video footage shown to the president. Meanwhile, in Cali, Colombia, we get Felix Cortez, played by Joaquim de Almeida, or something like that, visit his boss Ernesto Escobedo, played by Miguel Sandoval. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Forgive me. To tell him what he did with his men as the Americans have them arrested. And Felix hates the Americans. For what reasons? I'm not quite sure, honestly. Jack is about to go to work and says goodbye to his wife Kathy, returned by Ann Archer, Sally, returned by Thora Birch, and new son John as he gets a call from the hospital about Admiral Greer having cancer, and Jack takes his office for a while, and Robert Ritter, played by Henry Czerny, isn't happy about that and keeps Jack in the dark about what he's doing as he meets with John Clark, played by Willem Dafoe, and hires him for a job in Colombia as a sniper, and hires others like John Clark. Isn't that the guy that's going to be in the new Tom Clancy movie that's played by Michael B. Jordan? Kathy sees at a restaurant an old friend named Maria with Felix disguised as another man with a different name, and these characters are an improvement from last time. Even Harrison Ford and James Earl Jones, they improve on their characters better than last time. And I like the plot better than last film's plot, as it makes much better sense. Jack gives the president advice on saying how to live long friends. He is with a man he's known for 40 years, and Clark and his sniper team recruit the best sniper there is, and their best happens to be Sergeant Chavez, played by Raymond Cruz, and Clark recruits him with Captain Ramirez, played by Benjamin Bratt, respectively, as Jack hears on the TV when being said by the president, and I'm actually liking this much better as an entertaining B-movie ride. Clark and his team go into Colombia, and as they arrive, Ritter, I get the feeling, is up to something pretty bad. While Jack visits the president again, as they talk briefly about money, and asks Jack to go to Colombia, and asks Admiral Greer who the contact is in Colombia, and turns out to be Clark, as he's on a mission with his snipers to go after some people and blow them up while he's at a hotel, as Jack arrives in Colombia and talks with Clark about what he's led to believe from Ernesto, and can't prove it quite yet, while Chavez is searching for the bad guys and shoots them down and blows up their hideout. Moira gets with by her boss Emil Jacobs and calls Felix because his boss is leaving the country and wants to spend a couple of days with her. And for what little Moira does, I always call her Maria. It's driving me nuts. They have no chemistry, which is a problem, as Felix meets her in a cabin and he snaps her neck, and I didn't feel too bad for her when she died. And I could take her or leave her out of this picture, as this is a little too long at 2 hours and 21 minutes. And I would say cut all the romance scenes out of the movie at this point, and it's only 5 minutes, and the rest of this I have no problem with. Some Americans pick up Jack at the airport and they bump into an ambush, and they're attacked by men with a bazooka, as Jack gets some of them out of there as most of them are killed. And I did have a good time with the action sequence, and the sound in that scene was absolutely great. It works great. Americans are led to believe Ernesto made the attack that Jack was in when it was really Felix, and he calls Ernesto's contact saying he's scared and thinks the contact framed him, which is an intense scene, but at the same time, Felix is up to something. Jack makes it back home and a funeral occurs, and as it was the Secretary of Defense is killed as Jack hears about Moira as Kathy tells him about her date, and they go to her house and hear a message from Felix, which is a convenience in a good matter sort of way. Ernesto and his contact have a meeting in an airplane from the Gulf of Panama, blowing up Ernesto's house under Clark's orders, which is a nice kaboom moment as Jack finds out Felix's identity and hears Ernesto's house blows up on the TV. And the next day he hopes he's in Colombia, but not as he sees on the paper. The car bomb blows up and finds out more about the information on the computer as Felix hides in different locations. While Chavez follows and gets inside the drug laundry, as his commanding officer says about abort the mission, while Felix meets a man and increases his payment much higher, and Felix as a bad guy works very well for me. Jack visits Admiral Greer, as he's close to dying, which makes me feel bad for James Earl Jones. Ritter gets in his office, and as Jack hacks his computer and goes in the, let me see if I'm saying this right, reciprocity file, as he learns he's in cahoots with Cutter and exposes Ritter, and Jack tells him he broke the law while Ritter has a get out of jail free card. And Ritter is such an ass to Jack as Jack wants to put him in jail, and the scene is well shot, and Harrison Ford and Henry Czerny pull this scene off pretty damn good. Jack learns Admiral Greer has passed away, and Jack goes to another funeral as he goes to lots of funerals, which bugged me half to death in this series. I guess that's what he gets for being in the CIA. While Chavez and his team is getting attacked by the Colombians and are mostly dead except for Chavez, as Clark realizes he's screwed, and Jack realizes they were sent out of Colombia by Ritter without the Admiral's approval, and Ritter tells Jack was the one who shut down the mission, as it was Ritter, and Jack comes to Colombia to Clark, and Clark takes him to his car as they go to a hotel, as Jack came in to get his men out of Colombia, as he tells him it was not his idea and it was not Ritter's place to call. And Jack has to clean up a mess as he gets a helicopter for him, and Clark to get in the war zone area as Chavez attacks Clark, saying we left him in the war zone, or he left him in the war zone. And Jack explains it was his fault, which is a good way to explain himself, and the cinematography is great to look at, as the effects were good for its time, as it was nominated for Best Effects, but unfortunately lost to Speed, which is a shame. They can't escape quite yet, as Jack has an idea of who's behind all this, and goes to Ernesto, and he tells him Felix betrayed him, and he has a tape recorder to prove it, as they go to Felix, and I like the fact it'll lead him as a dead man, as I can't wait to get him down by Joaquin de Almeida, plays good bad guys. I'll see him in a couple more times in Fast 5 and The Hitman's Bodyguard. Ernesto swings at Felix with Jack there as he's shot to death, and Felix and Jack briefly fight as Felix's bodyguard is shot by Chavez, and Clark comes in where Jack is, and they go on a rampage to find Felix, while the helicopter heads towards their location, and Felix goes after Jack and Clark and get two other American soldiers out of captivity. and they shoot at each other, and one is down while Jack takes care of Felix by beating his ass as the chopper arrives. Excuse me. And Clark and Chavez and others get in without Jack as Jack runs in the chopper and gets shot by Felix. And Jack makes the chopper as Felix comes out and Chavez kills off Felix. And Jack makes it out alive thanks to Clark, and they get out of Columbia back in Washington, D.C. Ritter and Cutter are fired as the president talks with Jack, and Jack tells the president he's sent his soldiers to die, and Jack reveals it was all his idea to begin with, and Jack leaves the office at the White House, and the movie ends with Jack in a courtroom exposing the president, and the climax is fun, but I would say get rid of the romance between Felix and Moira. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 7.2 out of 10. This movie was entertaining me the entire time except for the romance between Felix and Moira, and that should have been cut out of this movie. But honestly, this is the best Tom Clancy movie I've seen in this whole series so far, and I'm not sure how Without Remorse is going to do as far as my impression goes. I like the actors in the roles they're in as well as the characters, as Harrison Ford and James Earl Jones improved from Patriot Games, as this is a much better movie than Patriot Games and a better movie than The Hunt for Red October, which is surprising for me as well. The cinematography looks good for its time, just like the effects, and it's a good time at the movies. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with the Sum of All Fears. And until next time, I don't dance.